Hi, this is Didi Garcia Blaze. You are listening to the Que Onda Show here on the Chicano Radio Network. And with me is Whyner, also known as the Script Villain, who is an international tattoo artist and photographer. He was born in Southern California and currently resides in Phoenix, Arizona, and part-time in Rome, Italy, bouncing between time zones, catering to black and gray tattoo collectors around the world. He finds inspiration in each town he visits and in meeting great people along the way. When he is not tattooing, he's submerged in the Lowrider car scene, including his own publication called In the Streets Magazine. He also freelances for various nationwide publications, and currently he's freelancing for Lowrider Magazine. Welcome to the show, Whyner.
Hi, how's it going?
And why don't we start with tattoo? Why you travel around the globe? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, right now, the tattoo phenomenon, the tattoo artwork, culture, scene, and everything has blown up in various ways. One of them is internationally. What I do, being fine line black and gray, that started out on the West Coast, is now being accepted and done all around the world, which since then, obviously the desire to have original people that, originally come from the West Coast or of Mexican culture, background, and all that stuff to do it. So they request us to go down there and invite us over to these conventions and expos and seminars and stuff like that, just to get the real deal, So for the last 10 years, I can say that I've been going in and out of the country quite a bit due to tattooing and due to the popularity in black and gray, fine line, Chicano imagery, religious imagery, sometimes street imagery to be placed all over bodies and on different ethnicities now.
Speaking of different ethnicities, I noticed how Japan has accepted the Chicano culture. In some cases, some of them seem to be more Chicano than what I see here.
Japan is very interesting, and I believe now, I will say coming from me, I think it's a very important place in the lowrider scene because they've been able in the last, I want to say since the mid-'90s, I can say, or early 90s, that they've been honing in this craft of building cars and the look and the style and stuff like that. So all these years they've been able to perfect this craft, and I've had the pleasure of going there probably about a month ago and witnessing it for the first time. And yeah, it's alive and well and kicking, and I believe that they will be doing this for a very long time because they're so enamored by it. They love it, they respect it, and that's the most important thing, that they respect la cultura, how it's presented, how it's treated personally.
Now, speaking of the lowrider culture, I'm really excited to hear that you're bringing to the Phoenix area an indoor lowrider show, and we haven't seen one since, I think, around 2009. Can you tell us a little bit about that, your upcoming show in June?
Yeah, I've been wanting to throw a show for quite some time now. Also, obviously, because I would connect it to the magazine that I publish here, the local car magazine. So the thought's been jumping around in my head for quite some time now, and I've met with a couple of key people that, do things like that, that do shows and stuff. And originally, the idea kept being brought up to start small and let's do a show at a park and do something small and see how receptive the scene is. But I was on a trip to London, and I was at a party, and I saw just how people were congregating and stuff, and people from everywhere were coming around, and I go, man, this went from like a little private thing to something big, and I thought it was great, and I thought it worked, and I thought people there were happy to be there, which is always a plus. And I thought, you know what, on my way back, I said to myself, let's just go big or not do nothing at all. Feeling that the people of Phoenix and Bulk, in regards when they reminisce on the Civic Center, the Convention Center car show, I wanted to see if I could do it again and be the new player. There was a gentleman that did it for, I think, 30 years. And since, like you said, 2009, he stopped. It happened one more time in 2011, and it didn't go as good due to not enough media. Now, I come around and I say, you know what, let's try it again. The city of Phoenix needs this. I think it's important to have an indoor show, obviously because it's under AC, just to do something in the summertime when it's 115 outside.
Good. I'm excited to go to that car
Thanks.
show. I know I've got it on my calendar to attend that, and I want to do some strong PR closer to the event. I do believe in the Chicano culture. I'm a Chicana, and I believe in the movement, and we're the next generation of Chicanos. In my view, what I've kind of seen in going and attending car shows, it's kind of, well, it's not kind of, it is turning into like a family event where the OGs are now, showing their sons and daughters and their grandchildren the beautiful culture.
Definitely.
Do you see that too? And
it's always been like that. If you talk to folks around in their 50s nowadays, they'll talk about their uncles, their cousins, even their dads, from when they were, children doing the same thing. And then they say the same thing about, their grandparents. There's this one guy in particular that I've met one time in person at an event in San Diego, but we follow each other through social media. And he has this compendium of photographs that are the most coolest because it shows his father and mother like deep in the scene in the 60s. And then he has pictures of his grandfather in the 30s in the scene as well, wearing Levi's, a white T-shirt tucked in. They would cuff up the bottom of their pants, and they're standing next to a roadster, tricked out, white walls, they could afford them or whatever, and down to the ground. And it looks so cool, and I'm always complimenting him on his pictures to the point that I'm convincing him, like, you should make like a little book to show off how this family migrated to Southern California and Northern California, was a part of this culture thing that was brewing, and it still exists, and it's going to exist till the end of time, that being a Chicano culture in the car scene and everything, I mean, starting with Pachuquismo, starting with the Pachucos,
Right. No, I mean, I have a 17-year-old son who wears Levi's, Customs, Converse, white T-shirts, has the pompadour hairstyle.
That will never go out of style, and it's just like black and white photography. It will forever remain classic.
In my view, I believe, the original people that were referred to as quote-unquote greasers, back then it was a derogatory term that they applied to Mexicans and Mexican Americans because, a lot of our gente back then did a lot of greasing wheels, mechanic work, and they would call us that. I mean, there's even evidence
as an insult. Mm-hmm.
Correct, sort of. And then we saw how mainstream Anglo popular culture sort of adopt it and make it cool. But in my view, I'll always see ourselves as being the ones who set that trend of that, the Levi's, and you know what I mean?
Right. No, you're completely right.
Elvis stole the idea from us. Tell us about your photography, your passion for that, your love. I mean, I want to pull out from your heart why you take pictures of cars and you do it via this angle or that angle, and
it started when I was a kid. You tend to hear that a lot, but like it really did happen to me. My mom always had a camera, and I can show you this mass collection of photographs that my mother has of us as children doing kooky things, and laughing and crying and running and at the park and at Disneyland. And so I always saw the camera. I can distinctively remember being 10 years old, and at the school that I was going to was an elementary school. I believe I was in 5th grade. They were going to have a night day, meaning, like Knights of the Round Table type thing with armor and stuff like that. And I remember I bugged my mom to let me take the camera. Well, finally she accepted the fact that I wasn't going to shut up if she didn't give me the camera, and she let me take it. And I took photographs of these men beating each other with these clubs and these swords and shields and stuff like that. I thought it was so cool that when she developed it, that it was a memory that I could relive, and it would never go away unless it was destroyed. A little bit after that, we were driving by a Kmart. There was a car show there, and there I go bugging my mom again. Let's go back to the house. Let's go get the camera. Let's go get the camera. I still have those pictures, the pictures that I took at 10 years old of these hot rods. And it reminded me of when I was even younger at the time, seeing in specific a green Fleetline Chevrolet lowrider out coming out of Santa Ana High School with these two, Chicanos in the front. And I thought it was so beautiful. And it never left my mind. To this day, I still remember that day, standing on the corner of Orange and Pine and checking out this green Ramfla, driving real slow with these guys with their hair slicked back. And I used to think, wow, man, that to this day, I use that as the catalyst to move forward with this passion that I've, acquired throughout the years. Now, because I'm older and I have a little bit more money to spend, I have cooler equipment, and I get to do cooler things, and I get to travel around for it and stuff. And now I get to reach out to all sorts of cars, because really that's the premise of the magazine. And with every car, you got to study it. You got to study the lines. You got to figure out, or try to figure out, what were those guys, the engineers and stuff like that, the designers, thinking about when they designed this car. After you sort of get like an understanding of that car, that era, that year, that style, whether it be hot rod, lowrider, custom, red rod, then I think you can apply that into the technical part of taking a photograph to be able to take the best picture. You're asking me about angles. That depends on the car. You know, if you're shooting a 1939 Chevy Master Deluxe, you got to know how to shoot that car, because it ain't going to be the same if you're shooting a 1985 C10 pickup truck. The lines are completely different. So now you got to ask yourself, how am I going to make this shot be visually appealing, interesting, captivating, enough for the viewer to sit there and say, wow, that's a nice shot.
Speaking of Ranflas, I wanted to thank you again for participating in a guinea pig year last year. It was a midterm off-year election.
Cruise to the polls.
You care about our gente so much so that you participated in that cruise to the polls guinea pig year with me, so that I could. Sometimes you just gotta go into a situation to work out the details
later.
For future elections. And 2016 is going to be a big year. 2016.
And I can just imagine what it will look like with 20, 30, 100 cars doing the exact same thing for such a positive thing to vote, and to incorporate a Chicanismo in regards to in the lowrider scene and stuff like that, to involve that and to show the presence at the polls. And I think it will set forth a lot of future Chicano shakers and movers to say, hey, I remember this, or my parents told me about this, and you know what, we're going to continue it as well.
You and I have had heart-to-heart discussions with regard to the Chicano movement, our history, our cultura. What message do you want to communicate to younger Chicanitos? Do you have like a burning something inside your heart where you just wish and you long for the next generation of Chicanos to sort of embrace?
For something that I use for myself on a daily basis, because I get to travel around so much, and because around the world, and I'm involved and I'm interacting with so much different ethnicities. One of the things I've encountered, obviously all of us, is a little bit of racism, whether it be due to my color of my skin or just the way I look, having a shaved head and a big mustache, One thing that I've learned to do is just avoid negativity, and this is going to sound cliche, avoid all negativity. Be positive all the time as much as you can. I know life is going to throw a lot of curveballs at us, but you know what? Take it in stride and move forward. My parents came to this country illegally, and I thought to myself, there's absolutely no way that I could live with myself if I throw away this life that they were able to give me. And every day I think about that, and I try to do something good or something good for all of us or for me on a personal note, to let my parents know that all the struggles that they went through will not be lost in vain. So for me to tell a child, a younger Chicano, would be avoid negativity, look forward, and if you think you can't do it, trust me, you can. And you will, because who am I to be brown, bald-headed, full of tattoos, big mustache, tattooing in Switzerland, in London, in Brighton, in Sardinia, in Italy, in Germany, in Japan, Spain. It never would have crossed my mind as I sat on Orange and Pine looking at a fleet line drive down the street. I never would have thought that would have happened.
And don't be so hard on the mustache. I mean, that's the power of the mustache,
That's el pegue.
Can you tell the audience how to find you, how to look you up, follow you?
Via social media, you can find me at El Whyner. On Facebook, it would be El Whyner, E-L, and then a space Y-N-E-R. On Instagram, it would be E-L, El Whyner, B-E-L_Whyner, W-H-Y-N-E-R. I do have a website. It's elwhyner.com. The magazine has a website as well, and it's inthestreetsmagazine.com. All one word, no spaces, no dots, no nothing. It's inthestreetsmagazine.com.
Thank you, Whyner, for coming on the show, and I'm excited to follow you and follow up with regard to the June Indoor Phoenix Car Show.
Sunday, June 14th.